Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the KLF Deep Dive. I'm here with Jody. Jody is also a FDA lawyer. He and I were talking about um, what if AI is your next doctor, and what are the implications of that? I don't know if any of you guys followed this, but yesterday, Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, put out a lawsuit against Character.ai because they had a AI holding itself out as a physician. Obviously, that's caused all kinds of issues. And the question is, are we entering into this bold new world where healthcare practitioners are being replaced by physicians? I'm going to get Jody's take on this. Before we get started, Jody, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hey, good. Yes, great. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. I'm Jody Shalacia. I'm an attorney that handles represents a lot of the dietary supplement industry. I'm a founding partner of the law firm of Shalacia and Tortorisi. We have our main offices in Birmingham, Alabama, but we have a satellite office in Los Angeles, California. We represent clients in the industry nationwide as well as internationally. And I've been doing it for probably about 25 years now.
Pleasure to have you, Jody.
Yeah,
So
thank you.
absolutely. So we're talking about AI replacing doctors. First of all, what is your take? What are you seeing in terms of people coming and saying, "Why can't I use AI to do this?" What is do you think it's a good idea? Like, is AI ready for prime time?
Well, well, look, it's a reality of today's world that AI is becoming more and more used, and frankly, it certainly has a reason to be used. It certainly has a place in the spectrum. The question though really comes down to is how does it react in terms of the law? I mean, because I don't think the law is caught up to it yet. I think there's still a lot to be unsaid. There's still a lot to be determined as to what's allowed and what's not allowed. And right now, it's kind of like most things that are out there. It's kind of your guess is as good as mine. And I'm seeing a lot of folks that are trying to figure out a way to use it to their advantage and obviously put themselves in a better spot, but are falling into the space of, well, how much can I let AI actually do? Where's the line? Where is it that I cross over from using it as a tool to instead letting it make the decisions and represent to the consuming public what is allowed and what's not allowed? And I think that's where the concern really comes in.
So I've been involved in some similar situations, a lot in the wellness industry as well. And what's kind of come up for me is two big areas that get pulled up. One is the what rules on privacy do you have to worry about? Is this acting as a healthcare practitioner? In which case, for example, do we need to worry about things like HIPAA and state privacy laws? That's one sort of area that you kind of have to think about. The other one I think about is what kind of claims is the AI making? Specifically, are we thinking about AI in the context of, oh, take XYZ drug if you have ABC disease? In that case, you are definitely crossing that line away from wellness into being a full-blown medical device. And you probably will need to go through a full FDA approval for your medical device. I would argue that if you take the Whoop case, where it was measuring blood pressure, as long as you don't cross that line and you don't say, if you have X, do Y. If you're just talking about generalities, for example, I'll give you a health score associated with your blood pressure. Well, you're more in the wellness space, and the FDA has kind of given you a little bit more leeway. Is that how you approached it, or did you see it in a slightly different angle? Do you see physicians using this as an adjunct to themselves, or do you see them sort of seeing them as your sort of on-call physician after hours, if you will?
So yeah, so your first part there about whether or not when does it cross into giving medical advice? Well, that I think that has to be the kind of the threshold we first got to talk about. If we're because you got to remember, AI doesn't. It's taking everything information that it has readily available to it and just pulling it all together. It does not know how to separate anything from that. So it very well may be giving correct information. I mean, that's entirely possible. It's doing what it's supposed to do, pulling all the information together and spitting out an answer. It doesn't recognize, though, well, that may be in violation of some rule, some regulation, some law. So, the first starting point is you're right. If it's going out there saying, well, you've got some sort of a disease and it's going to give you some recommendation of how to treat that. Well, clearly that's problematic, and it's done what it's supposed to do. And you, as the manufacturer, producer, distributor, whoever it is that's promoting that, that's on you to make sure you take care of that and prevent that from occurring, or at least put restrictions in place so that information is not spit out in a way that a consumer is going to take that information and use it as medical advice. That's the first side of it. The second side of it, as it relates to, it gives, let's say we've created this AI in a way that, a person, and I've seen a couple of different ways, the way you suggested, or he just kind of says, it kind of gives a general speaking term of, of these are certain things that may occur and may be relevant to what you're talking about. I've seen it like that. And then also I've seen it in kind of a question and answer form, in a chat bot type situation where somebody goes into there and will put in, I have a issues with stress. I have issues with X, Y, and Z, whatever it is. And the chat bot will say, well, these are types of, whether it's ingredients or these are types of products that may or may not be fitted to use in that sort of situation, and give you a list of various type products. Typically in those scenarios, when I've seen that, it's been, brand oriented. The brand will say, hey, we obviously want this chat little box be on our website, and obviously we wanted to spit out our products, kind of that sort of thing. And all that's probably fine, but I guess the overall thing that you got to do is, and this is the way I've approached with my clients is, well, let's look at it from a standpoint of, first of all, let me look at it. Let you put together your script that you think of, and let's do it from a script standpoint. Put your script together, then and what you expect the AI is going to say. Now, here's where it gets tricky, because if you're just having the AI give you, kind of standard canned responses, then you're really that's certainly would probably be more compliant from a standpoint. You can limit it, but then really what's the value of the AI? If that's all it's doing, it's just giving a standard canned response. You've probably missed the point of having the AI in the first place. So we've got to balance as the attorney. I've got to balance that issue. How much freedom do we give the AI so that it does make it give some value, but at the same time, how much restriction do we pull back on it so that it doesn't cross that line into giving medical advice or from a supplement standpoint, making some statement that shows that this is a product that's, diagnosing, treating, curing, preventing disease, that sort of thing.
I agree with you. I think that in the end, it is knowing what those limits are, and those limits are being negotiated as we speak. The FDA has, as you pointed out, been looking at this, been cracking down on this. I think what is interesting, I spoke to you, I mentioned the Character.AI case from, like I said, yesterday or something. But did you hear about the Utah situation?
No, go ahead. I'm not exactly sure.
I'll remind you. I'm sure you have, and let me remind you. Utah basically came out and said, you know what, we're going to use an AI to refill prescriptions. And I thought that was really, really interesting, because they came out and said we'll use it to refill. And everyone was up in arms going, this is amazing, but I love the idea of it. It's going to be so tech forward. And then we discovered that Utah never informed the Utah Medical Association. that they're going to do this.
Yeah, there you go.
They were not happy about this, so they're actually fighting back.
I can see that.
Is, who's right? Who gets to control? What are the limitations associated with it? Do you think, in your take, and I asked this to the students, by the way, a couple of days ago at UCLA when I was giving a talk. I spoke to these students and I said, do you think that Utah has a role in this space? This idea that they can use the AI to actually refill medications. A lot of students were like, this is a great place. I think it's just refilling the medication. Why do I really need anything else? But I have some concerns. So what is your take on it before I continue?
I think that's the question is if all the AI is doing is just, has the information in front of it to that this person needs more of their whatever their prescription is, and that's all it's doing is just automatically hitting a refill, then that's probably okay from my perspective. If that's all it's doing, again, that goes to the question though: is that all it's doing? Is it making its own determinations as to when you need more refill? Is it making its own determination of, is that refill what we're filling for you, what you need? Do you need something else?
Right.
Is it making a determination that the dosage that you've been prescribed by your doctor is not correct and it needs changing the dosage? Is it making a decision that, well, your prescription's for a particular brand and there's another version of that brand or a generic of that brand? Is it making that decision that that's a better alternative for you? Is it making decisions based on what you're supposed to pay in terms of your insurance, all those things? If it's getting all those sorts of things into the equation, now we're going way beyond just filling a prescription because we're making decisions at that point in time. And I think that's the whole theme I keep running into is where is it? How much are we going to allow the AI to make those types of decisions?
So what is your take? Where do you think that line is in terms of allowing the AI to make decisions? I mean, this is more of a philosophical point meets the regulatory attorney perspective, but
yeah,
I'd love to hear your take on it.
So in my view, it's gray, it's fuzzy. There's no clear point as when it crosses that line. I think it crosses the line, in my opinion, from an AI perspective, when that AI has to use some thought in the way that it gathers information and makes a decision based on the information it's found and tells you this is what you should do. This is where you should go. This is what you should be seeing. When it's doing that, now we're crossing into, it's not just, taking all the information, throwing it out there for you to see and for you to make some determinations based on the information that's presented. Now it's AI actually not only telling you the information, but telling you how to apply the information. And I think that's where AI is really not just in this field we're talking about here, but in general, that's where we got to figure out where is AI going? Because I've always contended that if AI is going to have any value in this world, it has to continue to learn. It has to continue to get to a point where it continues to make decisions. If we're putting strangleholds on AI to prevent it from learning or to prevent it from making those type of decisions, then at some point in time, AI is not really useful because it's going to reach a point where it doesn't provide you anything. So, and I don't think that's where we're going. I think we're going to more decisions being made. And then, like I said from the outset, the law is going to have to catch up to that. And it's going to be hard to do because it's moving so fast.
So this is why I love these conversations. I get to talk to smart people like yourself and then disagree. So I'll give you a different take on your thought process, and you tell me if I managed to change your mind or you still kind of like, no, I disagree, and that's fine too. The first one is learning on your data. I think number one, if the AI is going to learn on your data, the patient or the consumer should know that it is being trained on your data. And it's not something that should be hidden in like the terms of use somewhere that you don't know. it should be kind of front and center. Now, I'm not saying that
I agree with
it's
that.
required
I
by
agree with
law
that.
to do that, but let's assume that that's step number one. Related to that same learning on your data, I think that there are different types of learning on your data. One is, learning on your data to give you better medical care, or is learning on your data to see what else you'll buy. So I imagine, for example, if Amazon had its way, and I'm not saying Amazon does this in any way, but if Amazon had its way and I use the Amazon health tool to help me prescribe prescribe a drug, I bet Amazon would love to then go, anyone who buys this medication usually also buys this from our website.
Yep.
But I would have a major issue with my health data being mixed with my consumer data. So I think that transparency needs to be there a little bit more, which I'm not sure companies are necessarily adhering to. I think that's kind of an interesting one. The second piece I would call out,
and just say, just to follow up on what you're saying there, I mean, I think you're dead spot on. I mean, that is exactly the concern I have is where you've got, and I think FTC has spoken to this. FTC has made the comments that, you've got to be, it's all about disclosure. You've got to be up front and center and conspicuously state this is what's occurring and this is what you're getting. And I think that's the critical piece here where industry's got to come to folks like us that and tell them this is what you need to be saying.
I'll take it one step further, and this is actually coming from the FDA. The FDA basically has come out and said, as you know, that look, we're going to give you a pass. You don't have to necessarily come to us in the same way as if AI is completely making decisions on its own. We're going to expect that you come to us and get a clearance or get a PMA approved in that case. There's no 510K for this. But separately from that, if you're just going to use this as a clinical decision-making software, i.e., we're going to tell you, the prescriber, what you can do with the data. So it's a tool to help you, the prescriber, decide. Then we will give it, you have one of two paths to use. If you're giving it to the prescriber and just saying, use X drug, in that scenario, I think basically the FDA came out and said, that's not good enough. It's a black box. You didn't tell a prescriber how you came up with that decision. Therefore, you still need to get approval from the FDA. On the other hand, if you go to the prescriber and say, I looked at this data, here's the other information I looked at, here's why I came up with the conclusion, I don't know if you agree, but here's what I recommend. And now the prescriber chooses what medication to use, and it's based on a bunch of information that was available to them to see there wasn't a black box of information. I think that the FDA said, look, you know what? In that scenario, we will not expect you to go through a full 510K process, pathway, and the like. Now, if that changes, that becomes the patient directly, it opens up a whole Pandora's box of, I don't care whether you explain to the patient that you looked at QT prolongation and decided that despite QT prolongation, this is a risk worth taking, because the patient simply couldn't understand that.
Right.
So that would be my other take, which is transparency in the decision making itself. What's your take on that?
Yeah, look, I think that's where this. So I think here's the thing with that first analysis where the AI is just taking all the information, telling the doctor, that here's everything, doctor, take whatever I've given you and use use your skills to make the determination as to whether this should go to some particular patient or that. I don't really have a problem with that. To me, that's where AI can really have some benefit. It's like in most things, I feel like AI should be the starting point. It shouldn't be the ending point. It should be the resource finding tool to save us all time and money and energy to go, finding all this information in a moment's notice and get it to you. And then you can make the decision as you see fit. From a doctor's standpoint, I don't have a problem with that. When you flip that over to the patient, that information, the AI goes and finds all that information, flips it out to the patient. I think it's a different. It may be the same information, but I think we got a different standard at that point in time because the doctor has the skills and the knowledge to make those determinations. That's what he's gone to medical school for. That's what he's been tested for. He's been trained for. The consumer just takes information at its face value. If you throw it out there, they're going to believe it.
Right.
Now that's what happens, and that's human nature. And if they're right, they're wrong. They don't. AI doesn't know that particular patient's particular conditions. They don't know their particular lifestyle. They don't know their particular health, their parameters they live in. It's just giving you information, and that person takes it. Then that person gets harmed. Now we got a real problem. And I think that's where that type of analysis really shouldn't be going to a doctor, to a patient directly. I just don't think I should be going there.
Right. So I think so here's my question. Let's say, I mean, you and I are smart. We've kind of done this analysis, done this research, advised clients in this space. When things go wrong, I saw this, and I personally saw it as a stunt. But what I found to be fascinating was this idea that if it goes wrong, what liability controls? So I've had like insurance lawyers on, and the question is the AI conducting medical malpractice, or is it a product liability issue? Completely different standards, completely different expectations. And what would your take be? Why do you think it should be one or the other?
Well, I mean, it may very well be malpractice, but you can't sue an AI. Your lawsuit's going to be whoever put that AI in place. And so I think from that standpoint, when the liability is determined is we're going to look at that manufacturer, that distributor, that retailer, whoever put that in place as being responsible for that, because they should have known or had enough information to have known that AI was potentially could spit out information that could cause someone harm. That's on you for putting it out there. And let's be honest with each other. More than likely, you're the one that was between you and your programmer or whatever were the ones that are putting the parameters in place that set that thing in motion in the first place. So yeah, I mean, it very well may be that they're practicing medicine, which creates a whole other set of issues, because now you've got the legal liability standpoint to the consumer you go, but then you've also got legal liability potential to the public at large, because you're unauthorized practice of medicine. You got some machine out there giving some medical advice to the public at large, and now we got a whole different set of animals we got to do. So you possibly move over from not just civil liability, but potentially criminal liability, I would think.
And I think that's exactly why I spoke about Utah. I spoke about the Pennsylvania law. New York came out recently and said, we don't want AI practicing medicine, practicing law, etc. Let's be honest. We know a lot of lawyers who've used AI to draft their motions and have gotten in trouble for it.
Yeah. Yes.
It's terrible to be in a situation where the AI gets your brief wrong. It's even worse when AI gets your health wrong. I'm thinking a little bit about this case this week, actually. Have you heard of Claude and Claude Bot?
Yes.
And
yes.
Modbot? Okay. I don't know if you heard about this situation, but essentially, for those people who haven't heard, Claude Bot, this guy designed his system, I guess using AI in some way, that he gave the AI access to his entire database. It was a functioning company. The AI had controls in place. It was told, here are the metes and bounds of what you're allowed to do. The AI, despite the controls, deleted the entire application and the backups for the device, for this company. And when asked, why did you do that? You literally had controls to stop this from happening. Like a child who'd just been scolded, it goes, I've made a huge mistake. I've ignored all the rules you've given me. I'm like, that's great, but not acceptable.
That's right.
So I look at something like that and I laugh at this expectation we have of AI to do all these things for medical doctors, and sort of deciding the appropriate therapy, ignoring all the obvious evidence that AI simply, in my opinion, isn't ready for prime time in the same way that we're expecting it to be. I'm hoping it will be at some point. I'm not hoping soon enough that I'd like to still have my job for a little bit. But outside that, like, we know AI will get there at some point. I'm not sure that if LLMs are the way it'll get there. There might be a different version of it that comes out. But
yeah, that's my take on it as well. I think that there's AI has, like I said before, AI has to get to that. It has to go there. I mean, if it has limitations, then it really doesn't have value at some point.
Right.
It has to continue to evolve and continue to grow and continue to learn. And look, call me a conspiracyist if you want me to, but yeah, at some point in time, I think it probably does come for our jobs. I think it does. I mean,
well, it's come for the software people jobs already, hasn't it? So there's that.
But I don't think it should be. I don't think we should be afraid of AI. I don't think we should be moving away from it. In fact, I don't think you can at this point in time because the proverbial genie is out of the bottle now. People have used it. People are using it, and people are relying upon it. It's our job as lawyers, I think, to kind of find a way, in society in general, to find a way to use it that doesn't lend to the possibility of people being harmed because of things like this, where we're talking about where AI is literally making decisions for and taking the human element out of the picture. We don't need that. And I don't know, and I don't have the answer. I don't, but I certainly think that's our responsibility to make sure we find a way, figure out what that is.
So before I let you go, Jody, one really easy question, purely based on your experience. From what you've seen, we've all used AI in some form. I saw, I think, an opinion out there, I want to say from the American Bar Association, saying that at this point, lawyers should be using AI because it'd be malpractice not to replace what you do, but acting in the best interests of clients. So we all have to use AI in some form. My question to you is, to the extent you've used AI in whatever format you've used it in, have you found it to be, like, how far along are you in terms of depending on it? I'll tell you my answer and then you can give yours. My experience is, like, I've used it, for example, for 50 state summaries because I could spend the next 50 hours trying to find them. If AI gives me a direction, it'll take me 10 hours. And that's good enough for me. Like, I just saved my client a bunch of money by doing this. But I cannot think of a single instance where the information that came back was actually correct. It understood the concept of what I was trying to do, but the result was either missing context, missing nuance, or the link itself was wrong. But once I went to the link, I was like, okay, I see where you got me. Let me do some digging. I'll get the right answer. So it saved me the initial jump off, but the final result was wrong. So I'm going to give it like a C+. What was your take?
Yeah, so it's interesting you asked me that because I will tell you, 6 months ago, I wouldn't go near it with a 10-foot pole. I mean,
right.
I wouldn't use AI in any way. It was a concern. In my view, it was just, I was nervous about it. Okay. Since then, though, I've become more accepting of using it. But the way I use it is very much from a standpoint of it's a starting point. That's where it is. It may save me 5 or 6, 7 hours of initial research of gathering stuff and pulling it all together and then sorting it through it and applying it to my client situation. It kind of just really streamlines all that into an easy process. And then I take what it's given me And I think it's I think it is malpractice if you don't go back behind the AI and figure out whether it's led you off topic or has given you information that, while technically may be correct, it ain't what you're looking for, right? It's not going to be acceptable. It's not going to do what you need to do. If you're just taking it verbatim, I think that's asking for a malpractice down the road. And to your point earlier, getting slapped down by a judge somewhere. So yeah, I think that's kind of where I am at with it. I think it certainly has a space. I do believe that to a lot of extent, your clients now are actually, used to be, I think they were concerned about knowing that you were using AI, but I think you have to go at it now from a little bit different angle, because I think I take it from a standpoint is I feel pretty confident when a client comes to me, they've probably already gone and done little AI searches themselves. And in some cases that can be good. Some cases it can be really, really bad because you can't get them to move off of what AI has told them. And that's the biggest issue I see with that from the client side. Is I see I'll say clients come to me and say, well, ChatGPT told me X, Y, and Z, and therefore that's what I'm going to do. And I'm like, you've got to understand that ain't the way it works. Okay, we shouldn't be doing that. We don't need to be going that road. We can use it as a tool, and it should be used as a tool, but that's where it should. That's what our focus should be.
And I think that's the point we're both making, which is, in the end, ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude are tools.
Yeah.
So we as lawyers have learned enough to go, we can depend on it. And I expect physicians deserve the same courtesy that they can depend on it, and therefore patients shouldn't depend on it. It's great as this initial, I need to calm down, what does this lab result mean? But in the end, if you really want context on what it means to you, talk to your doctor, and don't use AI to replace your doctor. So that would be my take.
I agree. And always come back to your lawyer. Come back to your lawyer.
Jody, how can people find you again? I just want to point out, people can scan the QR code on top if you want to go to Jody's website. But Jody, tell people how they can reach you directly as well.
Yeah, you can feel free to email me at our website. We have a contact form on our website you can reach us at. You can also call me at 205-978-4211. Also, our email address will be on the website as well. So feel free to reach out to me, call me. I'm happy to talk to you.
Thank you for coming on, Jody.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me. It's been great.
What did you think?